Hi, it's Katie from Yarn Society. Welcome to my channel and this crochet along for Hilde the Highland Cow. She is my wild-haired Hilde. She has quite a few parts to her that we will go through together, including this cute little bell. I will walk you through step by step on how to do each part, including the assembly. I want to take a quick minute to talk about the yarn that I used to make Hilde. Here's a quick peek at another color that I used in the pattern, and I'll link to all the yarn colors below. I used Knit Picks Wool of the Andes yarn for this pattern. It is super soft and it is great for her hair, especially for unraveling. It looks super cute, but use what you have on hand. If you have acrylic, it'll look great. Cotton blend, really anything will look awesome for this pattern. Beside the yarn for the pattern, we'll be using an E 3.5mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, some stuffing. You can grab some stitch markers or a paper clip, a yarn needle, 12mm safety eyes, or you could use something close to that size. And then if you decide to make the bell, I use embroidery floss, and this particular one is number 415. And then for the bell, you'll want to use a B 2.25mm crochet hook and an embroidery needle. We're going to get started with the snout. Grab your yarn color of choice, your hook, and we're also going to grab a stitch marker. We're going to be starting out with a slip knot, so take a long piece of yarn, wrap it around 2 fingers, crisscrossing onto the top. And then we're going to take the back piece of yarn and push that to the front. Grab that piece of yarn that you moved to the front, pull it up, and then you'll be able to tighten that piece of yarn. You can take the tail and pull it down to tighten the yarn. You can also loosen it by just pulling back up. So we're going to insert our hook here and pull tight, and then we are going to start out by chaining 7. So we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So starting in the second chain from the hook, we are going to do 1 increase, and an increase is 2 single crochet into that stitch. So starting into that second stitch from the hook, we are going to single crochet 1, and then we are going to single crochet 2, and that makes our first increase. Then we are going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So we're going to do a single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So we're going to single crochet 1, 2, 3, and 4. In our last stitch, we are going to place 4 single crochets into that stitch. So that is your last stitch here. We are going to single crochet 4 times. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. The hole from your slip knot will start to get bigger. Just give that a cinch and it will close. Now we are going to work down the other side of the chain. The V's will be on the bottom and we will be working on that top part of the chain. The first stitch will be right next to where you tighten that hole for your slip knot. So the first stitch will go into here. We are going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and then we are going to end with an increase. Single crochet 1, single crochet 2, single crochet 3, and then we'll put our 4th single crochet in there. And in that last stitch, we are going to do an increase, which is 2 single crochet in the same stitch. So you'll see the hole here, you'll place your hook right into that hole, you'll do a single crochet 1, and then do your second single crochet, and that will make an increase. Place your stitch marker on that last stitch that you did, and then we are going to count to make sure that we have 16 stitches. You are going to count the stitch right next to your stitch marker. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Your last stitch will always be the one in your stitch marker. So starting in the next round, we are going to start directly into that stitch next to your stitch marker, and we are going to single crochet all the way around, leaving us with 16 stitches. So we're going to do single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. You'll always go into that stitch with the stitch marker. That will be your last stitch. So now we're going to start on round 3. So we're going to take our stitch marker out and put it in that last stitch of round 2. And then we are going to increase, single crochet in the next 7. We'll do an increase again, and then another single crochet 7. So in that next stitch, we're going to do an increase. So single crochet 1, single crochet 2. And then we're going to do 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now we're going to do an increase in the next stitch. So we're going to single crochet 1 and 2, and then we're going to finish off with 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry about that, 5, 6, and 7. When you're working with wool yarn, you have pieces everywhere sticking out. So that is our last round. We're going to take the stitch marker out, and now what you want to do is leave an extra long tail, because we're going to do something called a seamless join. We need extra long tail because we're going to be attaching the snout to the head eventually. So cut your yarn, and instead of doing a fasten off, we are just going to pull the yarn straight out. So pull the yarn straight out of the stitch, and then attach the end of the yarn to a yarn needle. To make a seamless join, you want to see where your last stitch is. So if you pull tight on that stitch, you can see where your last V was done. You want to move one stitch to the left, insert your needle under both stitches, both loops, pull that tight, and then you go back to the right, back into that last crocheted stitch that you just did, and you're going to go right in the middle of that V with your yarn needle. So you're not going to go underneath both, you're going to go right through the middle, pull that through, and then you will have this faux stitch here. You can leave that stitch, but what I like to do is pull it tight so it disappears, and then it leaves a really nice edge on your work. Go ahead and put that snout to the side, and we will move on with the head. Moving on to the head, we are going to single crochet 4 times into a magic circle, or we can do the alternate way, which is chain 2 and single crochet 4 in the second chain from the hook. So we're going to do that way. We're going to start out with a slip knot, pushing the back piece to the front, and then we're going to pull up on that piece to tighten it. Pull the tail down to tighten it around the hook, and then we are going to chain 2. 1, 2. In the second chain from the hook, we are going to single crochet 4 times. This is a great alternate way. If you're still learning how to do the magic circle, you can do this way instead. So this is the 4th single crochet, and then you'll want to grab a stitch marker and place it in that last stitch of round 1. Tighten the bottom where the slip knot is to close that hole, and then you'll fan out your stitches. If you're just starting out, you may not know exactly where your first stitch of round 2 begins. So I'll show you here. Because we did a slip knot, there's this funny little stitch here, but if you count backward from your stitch marker, so we have 1V, 2, 3, 4, you'll know that this is the first stitch of the next round. So we're going to start round 2 in that stitch with a single crochet, and then we're going to do 3 single crochet in the next stitch. So we're going to do 1 single crochet here, and then we're going to do 3 single crochet in that next stitch. So we're going to do single crochet 1, 2, and 3, all in that same stitch. In the next stitch, we're going to do 1 single crochet, and in the last stitch, we're going to place 3 single crochet. 1, 2, and 3. So you may need to tighten the hole in the middle for the first few rounds. So you give that a tug, and then we're going to change our stitch marker onto the last stitch of round 2. So in round 3, we are going to do the same exact thing except 4 times. So starting in this stitch, we are going to single crochet, then we're going to place 3 into the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, single crochet in the next. Then we're going to place 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3. We're going to do another single crochet. Then we're going to place 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to do our last single crochet, and then we're going to place 3 in the last stitch with the stitch marker. This is 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to change our stitch marker to the last stitch of round 3, and this starts to make a boxy look for our first few rounds. So in round 4, we're going to do a single crochet in the first 2 stitches. So we're going to do a single crochet in the first stitch, single crochet in the next. Then we're going to place 3 single crochet in that corner stitch. We are going to start to make 4 corners. So we're going to do 3 single crochet in the corner. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do 3 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to place 3 single crochet in that corner stitch. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to do 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3. We're going to do 3 single crochet into that corner stitch. 1, 2, 3. We're going to do 3 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do 3 single crochet again in the corner. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to end with 1 single crochet in the stitch with our stitch marker. Move your stitch marker to the last stitch of the round. We're just going to count our round here for a quick second. So I just want to show you this is round 1, round 2, round 3, and round 4, and we'll be moving on to round 5. So in round 5, we're going to start with a single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So single crochet 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to place 3 single crochet into that corner stitch. Single crochet 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to do a single crochet in the next 5 stitches. So single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to do another 3 single crochet into that corner stitch. So place 1, 2, 3 single crochet. Then we're going to single crochet in the next 5 across. So it's single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to place another 3 single crochet into that corner stitch once again. Single crochet 1, 2, 3. We're going to single crochet in the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to place 3 into that corner stitch, 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to end with a single crochet in the next 2. So 1 and 2. So our square top is coming along nicely. We have these 4 corners here, and we're going to continue on. So change your stitch marker to the last stitch of round 5, and we're going to move on to round 6. We're going to start out with single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to place 3 single crochet into that corner stitch. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to single crochet across 7 stitches. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We're going to do 3 single crochet into the corner stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3. We're going to single crochet in the next 7 across. Single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to do 3 single crochet into that corner stitch. 1, 2, 3. We're going to single crochet in the next 7 across. So it's single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I'm stuck here. 1 second. 5, 6, and 7. We're going to do another 3 in that corner stitch. It's 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to end with a single crochet in the next 3 stitches. Single crochet 1, 2, and 3. Move your stitch marker to the last stitch of round 6, and then we'll be moving on to round 7. Moving on to round 7, we are going to single crochet in the back loop only for this round. When the V is facing you, that front loop will be the one closest to you and the back loop will be the one farthest away. So you'll put your hook underneath the back loop and we are going to single crochet all the way around. Continue to crochet in the back loop only. Crocheting in the back loop for me, it takes me a little bit longer to get around only because it's a lot more concentration on my end, but some people love to crochet the back loop for the whole pattern. So if you like that, feel free to do that as well. So here we're hitting up our last stitch, the one with the stitch marker going to the back loop, and then you can change your stitch marker into that last stitch. When you single crochet into the back loop only, you create this nice looking ridge, and this is what's going to help us to move into the side of the head. I'm going to take a second here we're going to count our rounds. So this is round 1, round 2, round 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the 7th round is going to be after that little ridge. So those V's there will be round 7. Moving on from round 8 through 15, we are going to single crochet all the way around in the next 40 stitches. Make sure to count your stitches before you begin from round 8 through 15 to make sure that you have 40 stitches, and make sure to also crochet through both loops. Continue crocheting and I'll meet you back at the end of round 15. Okay, so we just crocheted round 1 through 15, and now we are going to grab our 12mm safety eyes and put those to the side, and we are going to place those between round 11 and 12. So what I like to do is grab 3 of the straight pins, and I like to find the middle section of round 11 and 12. So we're going to count our rounds here. This is round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 is right after the ridge, and I like to keep that in mind to remember for later. Then we have 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I'm going to put my pin in between 11 and 12. And then I want to make sure I'm in the middle of the head. So I'm just going to go down the middle and go down to 11 and 12, and I'm basically there, so I got lucky. Now I'm going to count 4 stitches over, 3, 4, and I'm going to place a pin in the one next to it because I want to leave 9 stitches in between the eyes. So I'm going to count 4 over on the other side, and then I'm going to put my pin in the 5th stitch over. Now this will leave 9 stitches in between the eyes. Okay, if pin placement looks good to you, grab your safety eyes and just swap out the pins for the eyes. And no need to do the pins. If you don't want to, you can just eyeball it. It's just an extra step that I take before placing them. So we're going to insert our eyes and then just give it a look over to see if it looks in the right spot to you. Moving on to round 16, we are going to start with a decrease and then single crochet in the next 3 stitches. I personally like to do something called an invisible decrease, and if you don't know how to do that, I'm going to show you here. Take your hook, and instead of going underneath both loops, you're going to go underneath the front loop only, the one closest to you. Then you're going to directly go into the second stitch under the front loop only again. You're going to grab that yarn, pull it through. Then you're going to yarn over and pull the yarn through. That will be your first decrease. We are going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So we'll single crochet 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do another decrease. So we are going to go underneath the first front loop. Then we're going to put our hook underneath the second front loop. We're going to go up and grab that yarn, pull it through both loops, and then we're going to yarn over and pull the yarn through. Continue with 3 more single crochet. So we're going to single crochet 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to do another decrease. So go under the first stitch, go directly in underneath the second stitch, pull the yarn through both loops, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through. So single crochet 1, 2, 3, and then another decrease. We're going to go under the first loop, the second loop, pull our yarn through both loops, yarn over, pull through. So single crochet in the next stitch, single crochet 2, and 3. Then we're going to do another decrease. I just want to mention quickly that when you're doing a decrease, sometimes you can pull on that yarn. So you want to make sure that the yarn is against your hook before you do a decrease, because it can lead to holes in your crochet. So we're going to go in with a decrease, going under both front loops and pulling through. We're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches. This is 2, 3, then do another decrease, go under the first and second loop, pull through both loops, yarn over and pull through. Then we're going to single crochet in the next 3. This is 2, 3. We're going to do another decrease, and then we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches. Single crochet 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do our last decrease, and then single crochet in the next 3 stitches, ending in the stitch with our stitch marker. 2 and 3. We're going to change our stitch marker to the last stitch around 16, and then moving on to around 17, we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to decrease, single crochet in the next 2. We're going to do that 8 times around. So we're going to decrease 1, and that's single crochet 1 and 2. We're going to decrease 2 times, single crochet 1 and 2. We're going to decrease 3, single crochet 1, 2. We're going to decrease 4, single crochet 1 and 2. We're going to decrease 5 times, single crochet 1 and 2. Then we're going to decrease 6, single crochet 1 single crochet 2, we're going to decrease 7, single crochet 1, 2, and then decrease 8. That'll be our last time, and single crochet in the next 2, so 1 and 2. So from here we're going to change our stitch marker, and then we are going to pin the snout. So I recommend grabbing another stitch marker and securing your yarn, which I did forget to mention this for the eyes, or you can pull it really long so that there's no way that it can pull out, but I do suggest putting the stitch marker because we are manipulating the head a lot when we are sewing. So to get started with sewing on the snout, I like to grab a few pins because I like to mark the rounds that are in the pattern. So starting out in the pattern, it says to pin the snout between round 9 and 10 and 14 and 15. So I'm going to find round 9 and 10 first. Because I know that round 7 is right after my ridge, I'm going to use that as my counting point. So now I'm going to count down between round 9 and 10. I'm going to place a pin there. And then I'm going to count for this, so I know that this is 9 and 10, and then I'm going to count down, so 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. I'm going to place a pin between round 14 and 15. This gives me an idea of where I need my snout to be, so I'm just double checking to make sure that I did that right, and then I'm going to grab the snout. Place your snout between the pins, and then pin the snout in place. Because there's no stuffing in the head yet, I like to place the pins horizontally the best I can in between those rounds 9 and 10 and 14 and 15. Just do the best you can to get those in place without poking yourself like I always do. And you want the snout to be as straight as possible. So here we're going to pin it between round 14 and 15. And there will be no stuffing added to this, so you don't have to worry about adding stuffing as you go. So now that we have the snout pinned in place, we want to make sure that it looks straight. And then we're going to grab a yarn needle and begin to go around the snout. Thread the end of your yarn into your yarn needle and turn the head over and find where the end of the yarn is of the snout. Now you're going to grab a stitch of the head. You're going to go through that stitch of the head, and then you'll go straight up under both loops on a stitch of the snout. We're going to continue this the whole way around. So starting between that round 9 and 10, I'm going to grab a stitch of the head, so here I'm just showing you that I'm between round 9 and 10. I'm going to go through the stitch of the head, and then I'm going to grab a stitch of the snout and go under both loops. So continue this all the way around, going under the head and through the snout. You want to check placement every few stitches just to make sure that the snout is straight and that you are on the right track. I do recommend stopping and checking and then continuing on. It stinks when you sew something on and then realize that it's completely crooked, like I've done many times, so I'd rather check as I go. It's a lot easier in the end. So we're continuing around. Once you get around the corner of the snout, you'll need to start moving down toward the eye. I'll show you that as we continue on. So just keep going through a stitch of the head and then a stitch of the snout. So here we are, we're reaching the side of the snout, and I'm just giving it a quick check to make sure everything is looking straight. And now I'm going to start moving down that corner. My goal as I sew around the corner is to go down to round 14 and 15 where I have it pinned, and then I'll go straight across that round. So here I'm going down and I'm about to hit round 14 and 15. So I'm going to take the pin out here, and then I'm going to continue across round 14 and 15, checking my work every few stitches. Continue down round 14 and 15, checking your work. My nose started to look a little slanted, so I got a little worried, but it'll be okay. Things do not have to be perfect. Every animal will have its own unique flaws. Flaws are good. Continuing on, we are about to make that way up around towards the eye. So continue grabbing the head and then going through the snout. If you secured your safety eyes on accident, don't worry about it. Just makes sewing a little bit easier when you don't have that big plastic washer in the back. But if you did, it's not a problem. You can get past it. So here I'm reaching my last stitch of the snout, and then what I like to do is go back, thread my yarn needle back through to the inside of my head. So I try to go to the closest stitch to the snout that I can, flip my head inside out so I can see. And then I'm going to grab a piece of yarn on the inside of the head. So just grab any stitch. You're going to pull your yarn through, and you want to make a knot on the inside of the head. So what you do is pull your yarn through, and you have this loop at the end. Sometimes it gets a little twisted. So try to make the loop straight, and then put your yarn needle behind the loop. I'm really struggling with this loop, and then pull the yarn through. And now that totally didn't make a knot, but I'm going to do it again. We're going to pick up a stitch on the inside of the head. We're going to pull it through. Okay, this is a nice loop. And then put your yarn needle behind the loop and pull it through, and that will make a knot. Second time as a charm. Now you're going to snip that yarn, and then we're going to put the backs onto our eyes. So I'm going to grab my plastic washer, and I personally like to do 2 clicks. So you wiggle that piece on there, and then I do the first click and the second click. Feel free to leave it looser, feel free to do it tighter. It's just my preference to give it a little bit of wiggle room. These washers can be a little tricky at times, so I wiggle them between my fingers to get them on. We're going to begin to stuff the head. Grab some polyfill stuffing and place it inside the head. When you're beginning to stuff the head, you do not want to stuff it too much. You don't want it to be firm and tight because we need to continue to close our work. You can do my trick called the smush factor. Make sure that you can smush it, and that way you can avoid some of those holes as we continue crocheting. Just position your eyes so that they are facing forward. Sometimes the eyes get caught up in the stuffing, so just make sure that they are set in there. And then we are going to continue on with round 18. Take out that second stitch marker that you had, insert your hook, and then we will start with round 18. It'll be a decrease, single crochet 8 times. So we're going to do decrease 1, single crochet in the next stitch, decrease 2, single crochet in the next stitch, decrease 3, single crochet, decrease 4, sorry, my yarn keeps getting stuck, single crochet, decrease 5 here, single crochet, decrease 6, single crochet, we're going to decrease 7, single crochet, and then do your last decrease in single crochet. When you start to crochet with the stuffing in, it does become a little bit more difficult. As you can see, I'm struggling on some of my stitches, but we'll get the hang of it. So move your stitch marker to the last stitch around 18, and we are actually going to do our last stitch, which is around 19. We are going to decrease around for 8 times. So we're just doing decreases in every stitch. So this is decrease 2, decrease 3, decrease 4, decrease 5, decrease 6, decrease 7, and then decrease 8. Since we're ending with 8 stitches, I waited till the last minute to stuff my head because this leaves me with a pretty decent sized hole. Grab more polyfill and stuff the head. I like to make sure that the head remains flat on top, but it does have a firmness to it, so just continue stuffing in the middle of your head. And when you feel like you've placed enough stuffing, we will move on to closing up our head. Once you feel like your head is fully stuffed, we are going to grab our yarn needle and move on to closing up the head. So we grab a pair of scissors and leave a tail and give that a snip, and then insert your hook into the stitch where your second stitch marker was. We are going to fasten off by yarning over and pulling through. You can take out the stitch marker that you've been using, grab your yarn needle and thread that tail into the yarn needle. So now we're going to do a close on our head. So we know that we have 8 stitches, and if you need to, you can count backwards from your last stitch. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We are going to go into that first stitch We're going to go right down the middle of the V, and you're going to pull your yarn needle towards you. I like to turn my head as I turn the piece. So go ahead and put your yarn needle into the second stitch right down the middle and pull the piece around and turn the head towards you. Insert it into that fourth stitch, pull down, the fifth stitch, go through the sixth, seventh, and eighth stitch. Now what we're going to do is close this hole using your 2 fingers, but you want to keep your eye on the middle of the hole. So as you're closing, just make sure that you're looking right into that area, because we're going to insert our yarn needle into that hole. So once it's almost completely closed, I'm going to tighten it a little bit more here. I'm watching where the hole is, and I'm going to insert my yarn needle right into that hole. Weave your yarn through, and then give that yarn a tug. And that gives you this seamless look on your amigurumi piece. Weave your yarn into the head and snip off that piece. And here is our finished head. We're going to move on to the horns next. Moving on to the horns, we are going to start with 3 single crochet into a magic circle, or you can do the way that we've been doing with SlipKnot, chain 2, single crochet 3 in the second stitch from the chain. I am going to continue with the technique that I do for a magic circle, and I will link to that video below if you'd like to learn. I'm going to do 3 single crochet into a magic circle, pull that hole closed, and then fan out these stitches because they are trying to turn in on themselves. And then if you don't know which stitch is your first stitch of the round, go ahead and count backwards from your last stitch. Insert a stitch marker into the last stitch of round 1, and then we'll be moving on to round 2, which is an increase, single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So we're going to make 2 single crochet in that first stitch for an increase. So we're going to single crochet 1, and that first stitch can be a little bit tricky because we're only starting with 3. As you can see, I'm struggling a bit. So here's single crochet 1 and single crochet 2 into the same stitch for an increase, and then we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So we have single crochet 1 and then our second one into the last stitch of the round. Move your stitch marker to the last stitch of the round. Fan your stitches out because they will start to turn in on themselves. And I want to point out that we are increasing by such a small number that it looks like we're really stretching to go to our next stitch, which we are, because this is our last stitch and we're moving all the way over. Just going to pull your hook over to that next stitch, as awkward as it feels, and we are going to go into that first stitch here. So for round 3, we're going to increase into the first stitch, and then we are going to single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So we're going to single crochet 1, 2, and 3. We're going to fan our stitches out the right way because they're turning in on themselves again. And then we are going to change our stitch marker to the last stitch of the round. So for round 4, we're going to increase, single crochet in the next 4. So again, we're moving over to that stitch. We're going to make our increase. We are going to single crochet 1, single crochet 2 in the next stitch, single crochet 3, and then single crochet in the last stitch with the stitch marker. Move your stitch marker. We will start round 5 where we're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. So just single crochet all the way around. is 4, 5, and then 6. So move your stitch marker. I'm just going to take a second and push in this piece because it's really getting in the way. You can use the back of your crochet hook, a pair of scissors, anything that works. So for round 6, we are going to do a decrease, single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then increase in the last 2. So we're going to do our first decrease here. We're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So this is single crochet 1, single crochet 2, and then we are going to do an increase in the next stitch, and then an increase into the last stitch. We are going to cut the yarn and make a seamless join as we did in the snout. So leave a long tail and cut the yarn. Pull the yarn all the way through. You can take out your stitch marker and then thread that tail into a yarn needle. Find the last stitch by pulling up and then move 1 stitch over to the left. Put your needle underneath both of the loops. Pull that through and then go back through that last crocheted stitch and go right down the middle of the V. And pull your yarn through. Give it a tug and then you have your first horn. The decrease on top gives it that little point so that it points up like horns. So you want to make sure when you're assembling the horns that that part is facing on the top. Go ahead and make another horn and then we'll meet you back for the ears. Starting on the first ear, we're going to make a magic circle with 3 single crochet, or you can do chain 2 single crochet 3 times in the second chain from the hook. So we're going to single crochet 3 times, 2, 3, close up that hole that you have left, and place a stitch marker on the last stitch of round 1. For round 2, we're going to increase in the next 3 stitches. Increase 1, increase 2, and increase 3. Move your stitch marker to the last stitch, and then for round 3 we're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Fan out your stitches as they start to turn in on themselves, and then change your stitch marker to the last stitch of the round. Pull the middle tight if needed. Usually the middle will stay closed at about round 3 or 4, so just pull as you need to make sure that it's shut. Round 4, we're going to increase, single crochet in the next 2 stitches, increase in the first stitch, then we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So we have single crochet 1 and 2, then we're going to increase again, and then we're going to end with a single crochet in the next 2 stitches. 2, So we can move our stitch marker. For round 5, we're going to increase single crochet in the next 3 stitches. Increase 1, single crochet 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to increase and then single crochet in the last 3 stitches. This is 1, 2, and 3. Move your stitch marker. Moving on to round 6, we're going to increase and single crochet in the next stitch 5 times around. So this is the increase, 1, single crochet, increase 2, single crochet, increase 3, single crochet, increase 4, single crochet, and then our 5th increase here, and then end with our single crochet. Change your stitch marker, and for round 7 we are going to single crochet in the next 15 stitches. So just single crochet all the way around. Make your last single crochet in the stitch with the stitch marker, and we are going to fasten off. So leave a long tail, grab some scissors, cut that piece, yarn over, pull the yarn through, and then tighten that piece of yarn to fasten off. Then we're going to take out our stitch marker and we are going to flatten our ear and then pinch that bottom section shut. So we're going to pinch it like this, and you'll have that rounded ear, and we are going to sew this shut. Thread the tail into the yarn needle and pinch the bottom shut again. We are going to go underneath 2 stitches on one side and pull that tight. Then go through all 4 stitches of the ear and pull the yarn through. Once again, we're going to go under all 4 of those stitches. Wiggle your needle in as needed. So we're going through all 4 and pull that through. You can let the yarn lay over the top. And then when you get into the corner, just try your best to get through all the stitches that you can. And then we'll put in one last stitch in this little corner piece here. And pull that through. Now your ear is sewed shut. Go ahead and watch the video again and make ear number 2. We are going to start the body next. Grab the color that you used for the head, and we are going to make 5 single crochet into a magic circle. Feel free to do the chain 2, single crochet in the 2nd stitch from the hook 5 times. So here we're going to do 5 single crochet into the magic circle. Tighten that hole. Fan out your stitches and then place a stitch marker in the last stitch of round 1. For round 2, we are going to increase in each stitch around, so that'll be increasing 5 times. increase 1, increase 2, increase 3, increase 4, and then increase in the last stitch with your stitch marker. Move your stitch marker to the last stitch of round 2, and then for round 3 we are going to increase in the first stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. We're going to do that 5 times. So we're going to increase 1, single crochet, increase 2, single crochet, increase 3, single crochet, increase 4, single crochet, increase for the 5th time, and then put a single crochet into that last stitch. So changing our stitch marker, we're going to move on to round 4, which is increase, single crochet in the next 2 stitches 5 times around. So we'll increase 1, single crochet 1, single crochet 2 in that next stitch, then we increase 2, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, then we'll increase 3, 1, 2, increase 4, 1, and then your second single crochet, and then your 5th increase here, and then end with 2 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So single crochet 1, single crochet 2. Change your stitch marker to the last stitch of the round, and then moving on to round 5, we'll be increasing single crochet in the next 3 stitches 5 times around. So we'll increase 1, single crochet 1, 2, and 3, increase 2, 1, 2, 3, increase 3, 1, 2, 3, increase 4, 1, 2, 3, increase 5, and then end with your 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. We're going to move our stitch marker to the end of round 5, and for round 6 and 7 we are going to single crochet in the next 25 stitches around. So single crochet in every stitch all the way around, and we will meet up at the end of the stitch marker. If you guys have any questions or any question about a particular part in the pattern, please leave me a comment below, or you can even email me. It's help@yarnsociety.com, so feel free to reach out at any point. I will get back to you most likely within the day. So if you have any questions or you need help, if you're stuck on a certain part, just let me know. So So here we are, we're reaching the end of round 6. Place your last single crochet in the stitch with the stitch marker and move your stitch marker to the last stitch of round 6. So we're going to do the exact same thing for round 7. Single crochet all the way around. You should have 25 stitches. I should mention here as well, if you're going to start a few rounds that have all single crochet, you should stop, pause the video, and count your stitches before you start single crocheting through many rounds. You want to make sure that you have the right amount of stitches. You don't want to have to take out all that hard work, especially doing many rounds of single crochet it's taxing on your hands and your time. So just stop, count your stitches, make sure that you're on the right track before you continue on with the single crochets. So we're reaching the end of round 7 here. So end in the stitch with the stitch marker, and then we'll move our stitch marker. And then starting on round 8, we are going to decrease single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So we're going to continue doing our invisible decrease. So we're going to go under the first stitch, under the second, grab that yarn, pull through both loops, yarn over and pull through. So we're going to single crochet 1, 2, 3. We're going to do our second decrease, single crochet 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do decrease 3 here, 1, 2, and 3, decrease 4, 1, 2, 3, decrease 5, and then end with 3 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. Go ahead and change your stitch marker to the last stitch, and then you might want to count, make sure you have 20 stitches, because for round 9 and 10 we're going to single crochet all the way around in the next 20 stitches. So continue until you reach the stitch marker, and we will meet again. You know, I'm always so curious about who you are and how long you've been crocheting, if you started out with amigurumi, if you started out with something completely different. Please let me know. I want to know about you and your crochet journey. So here we're going to end with 1 single crochet in the last stitch marker, and then change your stitch marker to the last stitch. For round 10, we're going to continue to crochet around 20 stitches. I started crocheting in 2014, and I started with an animal, and I completely fell in love. I did not even think I would ever crochet in my life, probably like you, but it was just this hobby that took over my entire life. I think I stayed in the house for the month of January. It was really bad winter in Chicago at that point, and I think I just crocheted every second that I had, like that I was awake. It was pretty crazy. I was obsessed. Okay, so we're reaching the end here, and then end in a stitch with your stitch marker. I'm quickly just gonna count my rounds really quick. and then you can change your stitch marker to the last stitch of round 10. For round 11, we're going to decrease, single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and we'll do that 5 times. So we'll decrease 1, then we'll single crochet 1, single crochet 2, then we will decrease 2, one and 2, decrease 3, 1, 2, decrease 4, 1 and 2, and then decrease 5. And with a single crochet 1, single crochet 2. We're going to change our stitch marker, and for round 12 and 13 we are going to single crochet in the next 15 stitches all the way around. Sometimes it's a nice break just to have that single crochet round. You can either count or daydream. That's what I like to do. But then I mess up on my stitches a lot, so I am definitely a counter. I have to count before I continue on, because I do start to just think about everything. So I do mess up quite often. So change your stitch marker, and then we're going to continue doing that for round 13 all the way around. I have to admit, it's been nice because I have been counting for the video as I make the video, and I've made no mistakes. Like, I haven't had to take out any of my yarn, any of my rounds. I've been so proud of myself. So I'm thinking I should probably start being a counter instead of a daydreamer, because it would probably save me so much more time. Okay, so we're reaching the end here. And this is the end. We are going to fasten off. So leave a long tail. I'm just double checking to make sure I have the right amount of rounds. Cut the end of the tail, leaving a long tail. We're going to sew this to the head. Yarn over, pull the yarn through, and then pull that end tight. Take out your stitch marker, and now we are going to stuff the body. You want the body to be quite firm, so just keep on stuffing. I feel like that looks pretty good, and we finished the body, and we'll be moving on. Moving on to the front leg, use the same color that you used for the head and the body. We're going to single crochet 4 times into a magic circle, and of course you can always make a slip knot, chain 2, and single crochet 4 times in the second chain from the hook. So here I'm going to do 4 single crochet, and then tighten that hole. Here I'm struggling to tighten it. Fan out your stitches and place a stitch marker in the last stitch of round 1. For round 2, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to single crochet in the first stitch, and then we are going to single crochet 3 times in the next stitch. So single crochet 1, and then place 3 single crochet into the next stitch. This is kind of like what we did for the head. So we're going to do 1, 2, and 3 all in the same stitch, and then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next, and then place 3 single crochet into the stitch with your stitch marker. So this is 1, 2, and 3. Tighten that hole if you need to, and change your stitch marker. For round 3, we're going to single crochet in the first stitch and increase in the second. We're going to do this 4 times. So we are going to single crochet, then we're going to do an increase in the next stitch, single crochet, this is the second time, and then this is our second increase in that stitch. Then we'll do another single crochet. This is our third time. Then we're going to do our third increase in the next stitch. And then single crochet. It's our fourth time, and then our increase will go on the last stitch. Change your stitch marker. For round 4, we are going to single crochet in the back loop only for the next 12 stitches. So you have the back loop is the one that's away from you. You're going to go underneath that loop and single crochet all the way across. This will give us the ridge that we're looking for. This is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So now we created that ridge. Change your stitch marker, and then for round 5, we're going to go back through both loops. We're going to do a decrease in the first stitch, single crochet in the next. So do our first decrease and then single crochet. We're going to decrease 2, single crochet, decrease 3, a single crochet, and then decrease for a 4th time and end with a single crochet. So here we're going to stop for a second. You can put that end from your magic circle into the foot. Make sure you either put a stitch marker on the end of the yarn or really give it some slack, because we are going to stuff that foot. There's not a lot of room to stuff, so I took a really small piece and started to stuff that part of the foot. That's the only time we're going to stuff. We are going to stop after this, so you can use the back of your hook. You can use a pair of scissors or anything to help squish that in there. So if you add the stuffing and you like the amount that you put in, we can go back and continue on with round 6. If you didn't change your stitch marker, change your stitch marker. And then we are going to decrease single crochet in the next 2 stitches 2 times. So we will decrease 1, single crochet 1, single crochet 2, and then we'll do our decrease, the second decrease, and single crochet 1, single crochet 2. We are going to change our stitch marker, and then for round 7 through 13 we are going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. I'm actually going to continue crocheting, and you as well, and then we will meet back at the end of round 13. I just finished with round 13, and we are going to do a seamless join. So leave a long piece of yarn. You can take out your stitch marker as well. Cut the yarn and pull the yarn through. Thread your end of the tail into the yarn needle, and then we'll be doing the seamless join as we've done in the last 2 parts. So pull up to see where your last stitch is, and that's here. We're going to move 1 stitch over to the left. We're going to put our yarn needle under both loops and pull it through. pull the yarn through. Whoa. Fling it if you'd like to, but go back into the last crocheted stitch that we just did, the one to the right, and then go under right in between the V, right in the middle. Pull your yarn through, give that piece a tug, and then we are ready to move on. This gives us that flat surface that we need. Go ahead and make your second foot and we will meet back. To make the back foot, we are going to start with 4 single crochet into a magic circle, or you can do that alternate way. The back foot is the exact same as the front leg, except minus a few rounds at the end. So we actually will be doing the exact same pattern, just a little bit shorter at the end. So here we're doing 4 single crochet into a magic circle. Tighten that loop, that hole. Fan out your stitches and place your stitch marker in the last stitch of the round. For round 2, we're going to single crochet and then put 3 single crochet into that next stitch. We're going to do this 2 times. So finagle your hook underneath that first stitch, and we will do a single crochet and place 3 single crochet into the next stitch. Single crochet into the next stitch, and then place 3 single crochet into the last stitch with the stitch marker. And 3. Change your stitch marker to the end of round 2. For round 3, we're going to single crochet in the first stitch and increase in the second. So tighten the middle if you need to, and we will single crochet in the first stitch, place an increase in the next, then single crochet for the second time. This is increase 2, single crochet 3, then we'll increase for our third time, and then single crochet for our fourth time, and then end with our last increase. Change our stitch marker. For round 4, we are going to single crochet in the back loop only for the next 12 stitches. Reaching the end, we're putting our last single crochet to the stitch with the stitch marker. Change your stitch marker, and moving on to round 5, we are going to go back through both loops. We're going to decrease in the first stitch, single crochet in the second. We're going to do this 4 times. So decrease 1, single crochet, decrease 2, single crochet, decrease 3, single crochet, decrease 4, and that's our last decrease, and then put a single crochet in the last stitch. We're going to stop for a moment because we are going to stuff the foot. So give yourself a bit of slack on your yarn or place a stitch marker in that spot. And then grab a little bit of stuffing and stuff like you did for the front leg. So now that we have our foot stuffed, we are going to move on to round 6. We're going to decrease in the first stitch, single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and we'll be doing that 2 times. We're going to do a decrease here, single crochet 1, single crochet 2, and then we'll do our second decrease, do a single crochet, and a next single crochet in our last stitch. Move your stitch marker. For round 7 and 8, we're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches around. So continue to do that, and we will meet back at the end of round 8. Placing our last single crochet into round 8. We can take out the stitch marker because we are going to make another seamless join, so leave a long tail, cut that yarn, and pull it through with your hook, and thread the yarn through the yarn needle. We're going to move 1 stitch over from our last crocheted stitch. We're going to go underneath both loops and pull that through. Then we're going to go back to the right, do that last stitch that we crocheted, and go right down the middle. Pull the needle through and give it a tug. You can put that to the side and then make your second back foot. We are going to get started on the bell, and for this little bell I used a few different supplies. So here I used a bee crochet hook, and then I have embroidery floss by DMC. This is number 415. And then I have a sharp embroidery needle to use to thread in the little bell shape in the middle. Because you do not want to see me suffer through this crochet thread, I'm going to go through the tutorial with worsted weight yarn. For round 1, we're going to single crochet 3 times into a magic circle, or you can do a slip knot, chain 2, and make 3 single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So here we've done 3, tighten the hole in the middle, fan out your stitches, and place a stitch marker on the last stitch of round 1. We're going to increase for round 2 in each stitch around 3 times. So we'll do our first increase, and we'll increase 2, and then we'll increase 3. Change your stitch marker to the last stitch and pull the middle shut if you need to. We're going to increase in the first stitch, single crochet in the next stitch 3 times. We'll increase 1, single crochet, increase 2, single crochet, increase 3, and end with a single crochet. Move your stitch marker, and for round 4 and 5 we're going to single crochet in the next 9 stitches around. Then you'll want to move your stitch marker. Moving on to round 5, we are going to single crochet once again in the next 9 stitches. place your last single crochet in the stitch with the stitch marker, and then move your stitch marker over to the end of round 5. And round 6 we are going to increase in the first stitch, single crochet into the next 2 stitches 3 times. So we will increase 1, single crochet 1 and 2, increase 2, single crochet 1 and 2, and then we'll increase 3, single crochet 1 and 2. So we also want to do another seamless join. So you can leave a shorter tail, cut the end, pull the yarn through. I'm just going to snip this piece, but I would usually weave that piece in at the end as well. Trying to save a bit of time. So thread the end of the tail in through the yarn needle. Go to the stitch to the left of your last crocheted stitch. Put the needle under both loops. Pull it through. Go over back to the right through your last crocheted stitch. Go down the middle and pull that tight. And then you're going to weave in this end piece. So just find some stitches to go under and weave the piece through. You can also weave in the piece from your magic circle, the one that I cut. For the inner bell, you're going to grab a long piece of yarn or the thread that you're using, about a 12-inch piece, and then you're going to fold that in half. You're going to make a knot towards the end where that little loop is and leave a little bit of that loop hanging out through the knot. Then you want to thread the ends of the floss through the bell in 2 different spots, which I'll show you here. So I'm going to use my yarn needle, but you would use your embroidery needle. And I'll go on one side of round 1 and pull the needle through, and then grab the other tail and go on the other side of round 1. Just don't want to go through the same stitch. I want to position my inner bell so it's hanging down a bit. And once you like the position that it's in, make a knot at the top of the bell just to keep that lower bell in place. I don't know what the thing is called. I'm calling it the lower bell, but I'm not sure what that name is. So here I'm going to make a knot. I want to make sure I like where the placement is, and then I'll make another knot. Then you can use the remaining yarn to wrap around the cow's neck at the end. If any of you already know me, you know that assembly is my least favorite part, but we are going to do this together, so I'm even more excited. Grab some pins and your yarn needle, because that's what we'll need for assembly. The heart pins are really sturdy, but I do use the straight pins as I find them a bit easier for attaching the parts. Quick disclaimer as well, I do get out of frame in some parts because it is a bit difficult for me to film and attach, so I do apologize in advance. So enough talking, let's get attaching. So grab your horn. We are going to place the horn between round 6 and 7 and 9 and 10 of the head. And if you remember, for the horn, we want to have that decrease on top so that the horn looks like the tip of the horn is facing upward. First thing we're going to do is grab our pins, and what I like to do is mark the rounds that are stated in the pattern. So this one says round 6 and 7. I'm going to find round 6 and 7 here, and it is right between that ridge. So I'm going to mark that with a pin. Then I'm going to move on and count between round 9 and 10. So I know where 6 and 7 are. I'm going to count down to round 9 and 10 and place a pin in the middle there. Then I'll grab my horn, place it on the side and pin it around those pins. Making sure to pin the top of the round between 6 and 7 and the bottom between 9 and 10. We are going to do the same exact thing on the other side. So I know right where the ridge is between 6 and 7. So I'm going to mark that, and then I'm going to count down from there to found round 9 and 10. Grab your second horn, make sure that the decrease is on top and the tip is pointed upward, and pin that side as well. Once you have everything pinned in place and your horns look like they are even, we can start to attach them. So grab your yarn needle and thread in the end into your yarn needle. So here I'm going to flip my head over. For the first stitch, I am going to take out this pin and I'm going to go in between round 6 and 7 of the head. So grab a stitch, pull that all the way through, and then go up through a stitch of the horn, going under both loops. We're doing the exact same thing that we did for the snout. So just follow around. I grabbed another stitch under 6 and 7. Going through the head, and now I'm going to find a stitch, the next stitch of the horn, going under both loops. Move down a stitch and then go up through the horn. For me, it's nice to have those rounds marked because I know that I have to reach that point. So I'm going to continue to go down until I reach round 9 and 10. And that way I can attach a stitch on 9 and 10. So move the pins out of the way as needed and keep continuing all the way around. We're heading back up the side, continuing to grab a stitch of the head. I'm actually having a hard time getting my yarn needle into that stitch, but work it in there. And then make sure to get every single stitch of the horn. You don't want to miss a stitch. So we're heading into the last stitch of the horn. I'm going to pull my yarn needle through, and what I like to do is make a knot at the end of my work when I'm assembling. You don't have to do this, you can weave the piece right in, but what I like to do is grab any stitch of yarn close to where I ended, pull it through, and then leave a loop on the end. Sorry, I pulled it through, I'm going to pull it back up. So here's my loop. Then I'm going to take my yarn needle and go behind that loop, pull the yarn needle through, and pull tight. I use a seesawing motion to pull my knot tight, and then what I do is I weave the yarn in right next to where I made the knot. Again, you don't have to make the knot, you can just weave your yarn through. It's just something that I've been doing in the past year or so to keep my pieces in place. So my daughter likes to destroy them. But it's also a good option if you sell them in your shop and you want to make sure that things stay in place longer. So we've done that, and we're just going to measure here quickly. I think this horn is a little too forward, so I'm going to move it back just a little bit. I think pinning is the hardest part of it all, to be honest. It's harder than actually attaching it. So I'm just going to repin this, and then we will move on to attaching. Okay, so weave the tail into your yarn needle, and once again we are going to find where our first stitch is, and I have it here. So I'm going to flip my head over, and then I'm going to go through a stitch hitting up through the stitch of 9 and 10. So I'm going to start there, 9 and 10, and I'm going to go through a stitch of the horn next. So here we go, I'm going across 9 and 10, and then up through the horn. I'm finishing in the last stitch of my horn, and then if you decide to make a knot, just find a piece of yarn near that area, pull your yarn needle through, make a loop, and insert your yarn needle behind that loop to make the knot. Then weave your yarn into the piece, and then snip the yarn when you're all done. And then we've completed the horn, so we'll move on to the ears next. Moving on to the ears, we're going to place our ears right below the horn between round 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. I didn't mark my rounds here because I just stuck up the ear right below the horns. So I pin that in place and grab the other ear and do the same. Continuing to attach, thread the tail of your yarn into your yarn needle. And here I will show you, I'm going through a stitch of the head. I'm counting round 9 and 10, and then 11 and 12 here. I'm going to go up through 11 and 12, and I'm actually going to go through 2 rounds. Because this ear is pretty thick, I want to make sure that it's going to stay on. So after I go through the head, I'm going to go through the corner stitch of the ear. And pull that through. I'm going to go back up through a stitch of the head. You're going to move over one stitch and then go through 2 rounds, and I'm sorry, I'm really cut off here. Go through 2 rounds of the head. I'm going to pull that up and pull it tight, and then I'm going to go straight down into the piece of the ear, going through all the stitches. So pull that tight, continue on going up through 9 and 10. I'm sorry, 11 and 12, and going up through 2 rounds and then down into your ear. I'm going to do one more stitch just to get that corner part of the ear, doing the same thing, going up through 2 rounds and then down through the corner of the ear. Just grabbing 2 stitches. So here I'm going to pull it tight and make a knot. This loop can be a real pain, so just do the best you can. Make the knot and weave the yarn through your head. Starting on the other side of the ear, we're going to do the same exact thing. Thread the yarn through the yarn needle, go up through 2 rounds of the head, and then go back down through the ear. Going down through my last stitch of the corner of the ear, and then I'm going to make a knot right on the bottom, grabbing a piece of yarn right underneath the ear. Weave the yarn through, cut the excess yarn, and then we will move on to the body next. For the body, our pattern says to attach the body at the head around 17 and 18. So I'm just going to count down there. I know this is round 7, so I'm going to start here 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So I'm going to place my pin, which I already did, and then I'm just going to follow that pin around. I'm going to pin one more, and then I usually pin a third one, just to know where I need to pin my body. So looking at the body, I put the yarn in the back, the tail in the back, and you can see that the body is way smaller than where the pins are. What we will do is take our pins and stretch out our body until we reach those pins between round 17 and 18. And you'll actually be pretty surprised at how much you're stretching the body. But when you stretch out the body and you attach it, you also add stability so you don't have that floppy head syndrome. So here you see how far those pins are, and you're really going to stretch, putting the pin under both loops and just pulling that outward. That's why I really like to utilize the pins, because if I don't, my sewing is all over the place. So here we're going to attach one more pin. We're going to move it all the way up to that round, and I think we're actually pretty good. Continuing on, we're going to thread the end of that yarn into our yarn needle, and then we are going to go through a stitch of the head. And in this case, we're actually going to go under 2 stitches of the head. I don't usually do this, but I did for this pattern because the stitches around 17 and 18 are a lot more than I have in my body. Then go under 2 loops of 1 stitch of the body. Continue to go under 2 stitches of the head, and then going under 1 stitch of the body. Continue this all the way around, taking pins out as you go. As I get closer to the end of the body, I start to go through 1 stitch of the head only, and then grab a stitch of the body. Make sure not to skip any stitches of the body as you go around. So here I just did my last stitch. I'm going to pick up a stitch and I'm going to make a knot. So I'm pulling it through, making a loop, this was a twisty loop, and then going behind the loop with my yarn needle and pulling it through. I'm going to weave in my piece and then cut the end. Just finishing up and cutting off this little piece of yarn. Hilde is now coming to life. So we are going to work on the front and the back feet, and then we will be done. Grab your front feet and we will place these in between where the head and the body meet. We're going to pin those in place. You want your front foot to have that little divot facing upward. So grab a few pins, and I like to place my pin a bit lower because I don't want them to be in the way when I'm sewing. So grab your other foot and see what looks good. If you're not making a bell, feel free to put them a little bit closer if you'd like. Here I put them underneath the eye, right next to the eye and the snout. I wanted to have a little bit of room for the bell to hang. If placement looks good to you, then we will continue to move on to sewing. Thread your yarn into your yarn needle, and then we're going to go through a stitch where the head and the body meet. And I got really stuck. I'm just going to take this arm out because it is going to get in the way. So we're going to go through a stitch of the head and body where it meets, and I apologize, I'm cut off here. I'm trying to show you that I'm going to go underneath all 4 loops of 2 stitches underneath the arm. So I'm going to go through here, and then I'm going to pull tight, and then I'm going to grab another stitch underneath where the head and the body meet. And I'm so sorry, this was such an awkward way to film him. So grab that stitch underneath, and then go underneath 4 loops of another 2 stitches. I really only grabbed 2 stitches for the arm, and then I'll show you here how I attach the back. Is I went and picked up another stitch, and then I went through the corner of the arm. I went all the way through, and I made the loop like I usually do for the knot. And I went up through the back of that loop. So this is how I made my knot for this time. Instead of just grabbing a stitch, I grabbed a stitch through the body and the arm. So that really keeps it in place. Weave your yarn in, and then we'll move on to the other arm. For the other arm, we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to go through a stitch of the head where the head and body meet, and then I'm going to go under 4 loops of a stitch in the arm. So go through here, switching my spot, and then go through another stitch where the head and body meet, and then go through under 4 loops of another 2 stitches. And then here I'm grabbing that outer stitch of the head and body, and I'm grabbing a little corner of the arm. I'm pulling it through, and I'm making the loop so I can put my yarn needle up to make the knot. Weave your yarn through the body, and then cut off all the excess yarn that you have. So here we finished the front feet, and we will move on to the back feet. For the back feet, I will admit these are the hardest pieces to attach, but we can do it. We're going to attach the back feet between round 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. So here I'm counting because I'm going to mark my rounds with the pins. So here's 4 and 5. And then I will mark round 6 and 7. I'm going to grab a foot. And then I also want that little divot to be on top, how we did for the front feet. So place that foot where the pins are and just pin the foot in place. It's not that the feet are hardest to attach, they're just the hardest to look the same on both sides. No matter what, I'm constantly moving around these feet. They were driving me crazy. So just pin the best you can, and then we can move things around later. So here I'm pinning the other side, and I'm actually going to pin these arms up because they're really getting in the way. So feel free to do that as well. So here I can already see that the pins are too far up, so I'm going to move those back. And then I'm going to pin my other foot on the other side. Okay, so we're all pinned and ready to go. The feet look pretty even to me, so I'm going to leave them as is. And I will sew one foot on first and then make sure that they're on the same level here. Another quick tip is to place your animal sitting down, because that really helps to see how to place your legs. It was hard for me to video that with him sitting, but definitely sit him down and make sure that the feet are lying on the table or on the surface. So here we go. We're going to start out picking up a stitch of the body, just like we've done through all the other attachments, and then we're going to go under 2 loops of the back foot. So again, through the body, and same thing all the way around. I'm going into my last stitch of the foot, and then I'm going to grab a stitch below it, and I'm going to make a knot. And then I'm going to weave that piece in. Moving on to the second foot, we're going to do the same exact thing, going all the way around, going through a stitch of the body, and then up under both loops of the foot. I do want to mention that you want to stop every 2 stitches or so and just make sure that your foot and your other foot are matching. Sometimes when we're sewing around, things can shift and then the foot can move up or down. So just take a peek and make sure that they're looking the same. I'm heading into my last stitch here. So I'm going through the body and then through the back foot. Before I make a knot, I'm just double checking to make sure that everything looks okay to me. And then I'll continue to make the knot. Definitely make sure that your placement is good if you are going to get in the habit of making a knot before you make the knot and weave it in, because it is impossible to find that weaved in piece with the knot after you've done all that work. Take my word for it. I have done that before. So here we're weaving in the piece and then cutting our end. So take out your other pins and then just move them around and admire your beautiful work. You did it. So exciting. So he looks amazing. At this point, you can grab the bell that you made and put that around the neck and make a knot in the back, and then we'll continue on with the hair. Okay guys, we're almost done. We're just gonna add the hair. That's the last finishing touch. And this is the real showstopper for Hilde. We are going to grab a few strands of yarn. I cut mine about 5 to 6 inches long. They're extra long in this tutorial, so don't mind this. We're gonna grab a hook. I usually grab it a smaller size than I usually use. I wanna grab the piece of yarn, attach it to the end of the hook, and pull it through. You want to leave one large loop on one side and then grab the other side through the loop and pull it tight at the base. That'll be her first strand of hair. I started around 1 and 2, and then I'm going to move over down one side horizontally. I'm going to add another piece of yarn right in the middle. It doesn't have to be exactly even, just pull that piece through, make a large loop on one side, and pull the other side through the loop. I'm going to continue to go down the line using the same technique. Okay, so now that I finished this side, I'm just going to continue moving on to the next side. Her hair is done. I gave it a little trim because it was getting way too long. And then you're going to either unravel the yarn or you can leave it as is. To unravel the yarn, I just use my fingers, twist it the opposite way, and then pull the strands apart from each other. And this leaves her with a little bit of a curly look. And basically she's done, guys. You just have to finish with the hair, and she looks absolutely adorable. And I actually really like her better in person than in the pictures. Thanks for sticking it out with me through this really long tutorial, and I can't wait to see your Hilde the Cows. Please give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment, and please subscribe to my channel for next crochet alongs. Thanks so much.